Today we're going to talk about rational numbers and the coordinate plane. Now you're probably thinking, what does that mean? I know what a rational number is, but a coordinate plane. We're going to talk about planes? Like flying planes? No. That's not what we're talking about. Not those type of planes. We're going to talk about this thing right here. That's a coordinate plane. Now, it looks kind of scary, and you've probably dealt with it before, but it actually has to do with grids. Now, most of the time what you will see in your math book, you will see something like this, but then the lines will be extended. Instead of these little hash marks, they'll be extended and it'll create a grid system. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to take rational numbers and you're going to put them in this coordinate plane. Now, it's not as hard as it looks. Now, what we have been doing is we've been taking rational numbers, putting them on number lines, both horizontally and vertically. Okay? Both ways. Well, now what we're doing is we're taking both the horizontal and the vertical number lines and we're putting them together to make a coordinate plane. Okay? So there's a few terms that we need to talk about first before we can do any of this and before I can give you any examples. First is something called the origin. Now, the definition of an origin is where something comes from, or a starting point. So, in a coordinate plane, when you are going to label rational numbers on a coordinate plane, your origin is the place that you start. Well, where do we usually start on number lines? 0. Exactly. No different with coordinate planes. So our origin is 0. And what it's going to be at the intersection of the vertical and horizontal number lines. Okay? Now, intersection means where they cross. Where they cross. Or right here, which would have been easier instead of the hand gestures. But anyway, each one of those has a name themselves. So, but let's label the origin. It is 0. Okay? So good? So far, right? Okay. All right, so now each one of these lines, the horizontal and the vertical, has a name, as I discussed just a couple seconds ago. And let's talk about those. The horizontal one, which is the one that goes across, which is this one, is called the x-axis. That's why I have a blue X here. It's called the x-axis. So this line here is called the x-axis. That's going to be important for whenever we are going to put our points on here, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to do like connect the dots, and it's going to be awesome. Throwback to kindergarten. It's not even Thursday. Connect the dots. Sweet. All right, so that's the x-axis. The vertical line, or the vertical axis, is called the y-axis. Okay, so this is the y-axis. Okay, and this is the x-axis. Very, very important. Okay, all right, so now that we know what the origin is, the x-axis and the y-axis, now I'm going to show you how we are going to take rational numbers and put them on this coordinate plane. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to give you something called an ordered pair, which is a pair of rational numbers that you can use to put in this graph. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of a ordered pair. And they're usually surrounded by parentheses. Okay? Okay. That is an ordered pair. That's -1 and 3. Now, this is going to be put on this. So how do we do that? Well, first we got to look at the ordered pair. And this first number is the number that is the distance away from 0, either positive or negative, depending on what sign is with it. That's how far it is from the origin. And the sign tells us which way we go, either left or right, just like on a number line like we were doing before. Okay? But which one? We've got two different axes. Is that the plural of axis? Axes? I don't know. So we got to figure out, okay, where does this one go? Well, in an ordered pair, the first number is the one that always goes on the x-axis. Always. Okay? So I'm going to put an x here. And then, of course, the second number in the ordered pair goes on the y-axis. So I'll put a y there. Okay? So, since the first number is on the x-axis, that's where we're going to start. Okay? And it's almost kind of like, one way to remember it is like going on an elevator. You have to go into the elevator before you can go up or down. Okay? If you can remember that, that'll be good. So let's plot this point on this coordinate grid. So I know that the first number in the ordered pair is -1. So remember, we always start at the origin. And in this case, we're going to start at the origin of the x-axis. So the origin, remember, right here, 0. It's going to be right here is where we start. Okay? So we look at this, we think, okay, -1. So since the x-axis is horizontal, I know that if I'm going negative, I'm going to the left. Okay? So I start here, go over to -1, right there. Okay, but I'm not done. I'm not done. So then what I have to do is I know that I'm right here on the x-axis. The y-axis tells me how far I'm going to go up or down, depending on the sign. Seeing that this is a 3 that has no sign to it, we know that since it doesn't have a sign, that means it's positive. So that means that on the y-axis, the vertical one, we're going to start at our origin, just like we did before, and we're going to go +3. Well, that means we're going to go up. And we're going to go up 3. So now I know that this one is here, this one is here, and I just have to find where they meet. So I'm going over here, -1 for our x-axis, and then up 3, and there's our point. Okay? This ordered pair of -1, 3 would be right there on the coordinate plane. Pretty easy, huh? Right. Now, let me caution you. Since we're dealing with rational numbers, remember, rational numbers can be integers, positive or negative integers. They can be fractions, positive or negative, or decimals, positive or negative. So remember, since we're dealing with rational numbers, all of those things could be in an ordered pair. We could have an ordered pair of 1/4 and 3 and still be able to have to graph it that way. Okay? Hopefully this clears anything up. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments or send me an email and we can get those cleared up. All right.